Liam, thanks for joining us on Sky Speed. You mentioned after Monza disappointment. Hell, P11 is so close to a championship point. Why the disappointment?
That's exactly why. So close to a championship point. I think it feels like finishing second, honestly, in the situation. So I think just reflecting on the race, you could always look back on stuff and think about what you could have done better. But there was just a couple of things. My start was pretty poor. That was completely on me. And then I think potentially on strategy, we could have done something a little bit different. And yeah, to be that close to finishing in the points is just disappointing.
Why the start? What's going on at the start that is causing it to be such a bad start?
To be honest, all of our practice starts up until that point were good, but obviously it's complicated enough driving an F1 car, but the start procedure happens to be like the complete opposite of my Super Formula start procedure, and which is what I've been doing all year. So if I'm not, really focused on what I'm doing, naturally I basically just from habit do what I shouldn't be doing on that procedure, and yeah, that's basically why.
So lots of buttons that you're not used to, and you're not there, and it's just not natural at this point in time, right?
Exactly, and then during the race, it's a few switch changes a lap throughout the whole race, and for most of them, I'm still having to look down at the steering wheel at what I'm doing, which is fine, but it's just taken a lot more mental capacity than if I was just able to look where I was going and know where everything is.
First full weekend after Zandvoort as a Grand Prix driver. What's it like from go to woe that whole weekend? What's the experience like?
The first weekend was just complete havoc, to be honest. It was obviously amazing news and really, really cool. Never the situation I'd want to come into Formula One, obviously, because of what happened to Daniel, and I feel for him. But just the time we had to prepare was nothing. And obviously less practice time than everybody else as well. So that was tricky. So for Monza, it was much more, I'm not going to say relaxing because it definitely wasn't, but a more comfortable, let's say. We did simulator work, a lot of preparation with the team. I actually knew the direction we were going with the car for the weekend and things like that. So, but it's the last 2 weeks have been, completely crazy and different to my life up until this point.
Is it more manic than you expected it to be, and how are you coping with that attention?
It's I wouldn't say more manic because I think it's a lot going on, but one thing that Formula One teams do very, very well is they control that, really, really well. Basically, they completely look after you, and AlphaTauri have been super, and Red Bull as well have been super supportive to me coming into this situation. So I wouldn't say more than I expected, but it's definitely a lot. It's very, very different. Obviously driving the car itself and the racing, but the media as well away from the track. It's very different.
Sitting on that grid at Monza, the famed Monza circuit, and you had your first full weekend of prep. What was going through your mind?
We obviously had a complicated start. We had to abort the start a couple of times. So that obviously kind of puts you out of rhythm a little bit. But I honestly felt pretty good up until the race start. We'd done long run practice during the P3 sessions and P2 sessions. So I think I was feeling pretty comfortable, but obviously nervous to be driving in Formula One. In a normal situation, drivers come in, they have a season maybe to prove themselves, or half a season at least, or something like that. But in my situation, I've got this race basically to show something and try and not make mistakes and do everything that I need to do. So there's definitely probably a bit more added pressure there.
Yeah, how are you handling that pressure? This is really out of your hands. The best you can do is to drive and keep it clean and get the best results possible.
That's exactly right. And I guess I'm just luckily I've over the years been fortunate enough to do a lot of different championships and work with a lot of people. And I think I just kind of have to deal with it. I guess I've been trying to tell Red Bull, tell everybody that I'm ready for Formula One. Now, me given the opportunity, I need to show that.
Yeah, that seems a bit out of character. You actually get it sparking up. I read that a couple of weeks ago. You said, "Okay, I've had enough now. I'm telling you, I want to be there." I thought that was very un-Liam Lawson-like.
Well, I've been obviously in this position for a long time now, and it was the morning of Zandvoort, the morning of practice, that I had sort of like a meeting with Dr. Marco, and I was basically just trying to sell my soul to him and tell him that I was ready and that being prepared for this. Obviously, I didn't expect that afternoon for something to happen and to get the call up, but when the opportunity comes, I mean, you obviously have to take it with both hands.
Is that something you're learning about F1 very quickly? It is pretty much, it's about you. You can have a teammate, but it's all about you. You've got to sell the soul.
You do. I just think in this unique situation, it's it's hard to say. I don't know what it's like to go into it knowing you have a full season or at least half a season or being a seasoned driver, because that's not really what I am. So what I know right now is that I have these sessions, these races, the ones that I've just completed. I'm obviously not sure about what's happening in the next couple of weeks, but going into last weekend, all I knew is that I have this race weekend to basically try and show somewhat that I'm ready for Formula One, and that I've basically prepared for this, and that's basically what the mindset I went and tried to show.
Is the AlphaTauri quick enough for you?
It's fast. Obviously, Formula One is very fast, but it's mainly just so different, so complicated, especially in the races. There's just so much going on. If anybody listens to the in-car, the team radios, you can basically get an understanding of what it's like for an F1 driver, because there's so many things that you're having to do operationally to basically operate the car. And that's probably the biggest thing that takes the longest to learn, and that takes the most sort of mental capacity when you're trying to race other people as well.
Red Bull put you in Super Formula to prepare you for Formula One. Now that you're driving in Formula One, albeit temporarily, or who knows how much longer, how different is the car from the Super Formula car? How much quicker is it? How much more? Well, we know it's difficult to drive it. How quick is it?
It's very quick, and it's definitely quicker than Super Formula, but it's very different. Super Formula is a really impressive car. It's very, very light. It has it almost half the power of an F1 car, but it's still only a few seconds a lap, I would say, off a Formula One car. So it's really, really quick, but it's just does it in a very different way. F1 is a lot of horsepower, a lot of downforce, obviously, but the car is very heavy. And then, as I said, basically operationally, it's very different as well. But I think Super Formula's been really, really good for me to do, to learn, basically, especially on the aero side. You don't quite get that in Formula 2 and other championships. In Super Formula, it's a lot closer to Formula 1, and I think it's been really good for me to do.
Is Formula One very much a closed shop? Once you hop into that environment, everything is just Formula One?
It is, yeah. For the last week and a half, at least, basically, it's been so busy and so much to do that it almost doesn't feel real. It's all sort of just been a bit of a dream. The way it's all sort of happened, and it completely takes over your life. But it's not as busy, I think. Well, it is as busy, but as I said, you have the team that do a really good job at looking after you and making sure that everything's sorted when it needs to be, and they do a really good job of that.
So how excited are you if you get the chance to race Singapore? Because that looks like an even more challenging circuit than maybe even Zandvoort was.
It is a very unique circuit. It's one that, actually when I was a kid, it was my favorite circuit. I always played it on the Formula One games. I think because it was a night race, it just looked really cool. So obviously, if that opportunity was to come, I'd be super excited to take it, but it would be very, very challenging.
Mate, I know you can't say things, and I'm sure there are things already going on behind the scenes, but have you considered the fact that, okay, you get maybe 3-4 races and then that's it? Have you thought about what happens next year if the things don't turn out the way you want them? And as far as we're concerned, should turn out that way? You should be in Formula One?
I think it's obviously really easy naturally for my brain to go in that direction and think about that. But to be honest, because of the way things have been, because it's so busy and preparing for Monza last week, it's sort of, and I've only just got back from Monza last night. So it's, I've just basically been trying to put all the mental capacity onto driving the car, doing the best job possible in the car, and trying to basically show that I am ready for Formula One, that I've been preparing it for it for my whole life, especially in recent years, being reserved, doing a lot of development work with Red Bull, testing the car even in free practice sessions and post-season tests, stuff like that. It's something that I've been trying to show that I'm ready for, and now I have the opportunity, just trying to make the most of it.
Mate, I think on that one qualifying day alone, they probably thought, oh, hang on a minute, first proper qualifying, going to Q2, that must have been they would have gone, oh, okay, the kid can drive.
Yeah, but I think we were so close to Q3 that again it was almost disappointing not to go through. I think especially from where we were on Friday, we weren't really that competitive where we thought we'd be, and we made a big step overnight, which was really good. But both cars, 11 and 12, very close to Q3. I think it would have been pretty nice to same in the race. Obviously, just both sessions being 11th and 12th is a little bit frustrating.
I saw you do some Instagram work with Yuki. I mean, you would have known Yuki from the Formula Regional days, which we now call it, right? The old Castrol series, when he came out here and raced. Now that you're teammates, do you still look at him as, okay, you're a teammate, but I'm still going to go out and beat the hell out of you?
It's funny because obviously we used to live here pretty much together. We both lived in this apartment building before we moved back to Italy. And I spent a lot of time with him, but obviously going to Formula One 3 years ago nearly now for him, he's now what I'm sort of experiencing right now. He's been doing that for the last 3 years, and I understand now why it completely takes over your life. So I've seen him obviously at the track, but it's almost reconnecting, I guess, again now, being teammates. He's obviously very experienced now and very fast, and to be honest, he's been pretty helpful for me, which has been nice.
All right. Well, I'm not going to take up any more of your time, mate. We are incredibly happy to see the way you are rolling at the moment. Grand Prix driver Liam Lawson. Here's hoping that title continues for a long, long time. And go get him in Singapore, mate, because we know you're going to be there. I know you can't tell us, but we know you're going to be there.
I can't confirm. I have no idea. Unbelievable.